Today we are going to talk about Cobalt 2100 Econolite controller, and it's running the latest software version 32.66.10, and we're going to show you how to interface with this type of controller as well as how to get the high resolution data out of it. And finally we're going to show you how to translate this high resolution data for traffic signal operational use. And first thing I need to mention that the controller that we are going to use has an IP set up to 192.168.1.2, and also we are going to use a TS2 virtual cabinet which has been hooked up to that controller via SDLC port. So let's get back to it. First of all, I'll introduce or show you a cool little software that we are going to use to show the controller interface that we have been using. To do that, we have to input the controller IP address, which is 192.168.1.2, and the default port is 501. So let's connect. Once you get connected, it's gonna show this interface, or this window is showing whatever is showing on the controller right now. So this is basically the real-time controller interface on a mini window on computer. Okay, so let's open up the TS2 virtual cabinet interface that we're gonna use to interact with this controller. First, you have to load up the MMU. We are going to use a pre-configured MMU. Once you load it up, hit connect. So your virtual cabinet is connected to your controller. So let's start interacting with this controller and the cabinet. So let's put call on different phases over here, and let's say if you put call on phase 2, you're going to see a call on phase 2. Once you put call on phase 5, you're going to see phase 5. So this is basically how you interact with this controller and everything. So let's do one thing. Let's record the time that we put call on a phase, whatever phase we want. Let's just put call on phase 1 and phase 5. Once it hits at 12:33, I'm gonna put call on phase 5. Okay, and then I'm gonna put the call off. And then once it hits let's say 15 over here, I'm gonna put call on phase 1. Okay, and right now, so what I did here, I put call on phase 1 and phase 5, and I recorded the time that I put call on. It's basically kind of simulating a vehicle that is arrived at phase 1, or it's trying to take the left turn or whatever it is. It's kind of showing a detector event. So if you look at the enumeration, you'll see detector event 82 is detector on and 81 is detector off. It's basically showing whenever his car is going through over a detector, the detector gets turned on, which is showing which sends the event code 82 to the controller. And once the vehicle passes the detector, it sends the detector event 81 to that controller, and the controller stores this information. And today we're going to show how to get those information, those high resolution data information or high resolution data sets. And to do that, we're going to use a FileZilla to get into that controller. And once we get into the controller, we're going to get the data out of that controller. And to do that, we have to input the host or controller IP address, which is 192.168.1.2, and you have to put the username and password. And we are inside the controller. So whatever the data, whatever the controller events that we interacted earlier is stored in the set1 folder for the Econolite controller or the Cobalt 2100. So once you get into that set1 folder, you'll see bunch of DATS file or DATZ file or DAT file. So the DAT file is the one that we currently worked on, and once it's once in every 15 or 5 minutes, it's create a new file which is compressed version of the dat file. So basically DATS file or DATZ file is the compressed version of the dat file as far as I know. So let's download the latest file that we worked with, and we're gonna translate this data for our use. I'm gonna as you can see, there are two types of file, which is DAT and DATS. I'm gonna download both of them and translate both of them. So I downloaded one, I downloaded the second one. So once you download this file type, you have to put these files into the translator where the translator is which folder use translator is. So our translator, we're going to use the high resolution translator.exe to translate these two types of file. Let's put those files over here. Again, we have one DAT file, one DATS file. So you have to open up the CMD from the same folder directory where your translator is and your data is. Let's open up the CMD. So I'm going to put these two on side by side so you can easily see what's going on. First, you need to input the software name or software, and which is high resolution translator, which is this one. And then you have to input the file type you want to translate. First, at the beginning, we're gonna translate the DATS file, which is the compressed version of the DAT file. Let's input the name. So this is the file. Actually, this is the file that we're going to translate at the first. Let's hit enter. So as you can see, a CSV file is created on that folder, and this file is the translated version of that file because we translated this one. And let's open up that file. So as you can see, these are all the events that has been recorded on the controller. And let's translate the latest file that actually we interacted with. The one, remember that we put call on phase 1 and that we put call on phase 5. This is the one that we're going to translate and see through to match the events that we input. So the events that we created. So let's translate this file, and I'm going to show you another way that you can open up CMD or command prompt and get into this folder. Let's do that way. Let's just open up the CMD or command prompt, and I'm going to put side by side. Okay. Let's go to the desktop because my folder is on the desktop. Then I'm going to go to that same folder. So this is the folder I'm going to talk about. This is the folder where our high resolution translator software is and our data file is. Once you get in the folder, same thing, you have to type in the software name, and then you have to type in the software the data file that you want to translate. Remember, this is the DAT file that we're going to translate. So once you enter that file, once you put that file name and then just press enter, and it's going to create a new CSV file, which is the translated version of this file. So let's open that CSV file, and I have to mention that this is the timestamp, this is the event type, this is the parameters. So these are the parameters or different phases that have been used, and this is the event type or event, whatever event that has been happening on the detectors and everything, it shows up on the event type column. Let's format that time. Let's just use a time format and date format that everyone can make sense of. Okay, so I'm gonna format it for the whole thing, and we don't need this up to, actually we don't need up to this because this starts from here. So as you can see, these are the timestamp, and if you remember from previous that we did put call on phase 1 and phase 5, and at exactly 1:33 we put call on phase 5. put call, yes, sorry, I blinked for a minute. So we put call on phase 5 at 133, and this is basically means the detector is turned on for phase 5 at that particular time. And just after 1 second I clicked it off, which means the detector is off. The event code 81 is detector off. So let's make sure, yeah, the 81 is detector off and the 82 is detector on. So for phase 5 we match those information that we interacted with our virtual cabinet interface and our controller. And after that we did put call on phase 1 at 132.15, which is again 82 is detector on and 81 is detector off. So basically these are all the events. This is one of the events that has been stored in the controller, and we downloaded that data and we translated the data, and now we can see that data, and this is matched. So the whole point of recording the time and putting calls on different phases and everything was to make sure that whatever happens on the controller, whatever has stored in that controller, we can match those information. And this is it, this is matched. And there are all other different types of controller events, and that has been stored in that data file. And you can use this Indiana traffic signal high resolution data logger enumeration to make sense of what are the event types, and these are the event type, and you can make notes of this and make sure whatever you're looking at you can translate those information. Okay, so we did translated both type of files and everything, so I hope it helps, and I think this is it. Thanks.